We're back now on MSNBC, and President Biden is meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz today at the White House as the war in Ukraine enters its second year. Both leaders have been very vocal about their concerns that China could supply weapons to Russia. And joining me now is John Kirby, the coordinator for strategic communications with the National Security Council. John, I appreciate your making time for us. I want to start by this visit from Olaf Scholz here. You described it as a working meeting. There is wide reporting that Germany and France want this war to wind down quickly. Does the U.S. agree with Germany and France on this?
We'd like this war to end today, Peter, and it could if Mr. Putin would do the right thing and pull his troops out of Ukraine where they don't belong in the first place. But short of that, we want to make sure if there's a negotiated peace here, that it's got to be done in full consultation and coordination with the Ukrainians, with President Zelensky. Nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. You've heard President Biden talk about that many, many times. That's still our position. Now, obviously, we'd all like to see this war end as soon as possible. The Ukrainians, no less than anybody else, would like to see it end. But we got to make sure that as it ends in a way that respects Ukrainian sovereignty, Ukrainian interests, and those interests have got to be defined by President Zelensky.
Obviously, one of the challenges right now is to continue to maintain this pace of providing weapons support for Ukraine. Right now, it's been nearly a month since Berlin gave European allies permission to send those German tanks, the Leopard 2s, to Ukraine. There has been a problem getting some of those tanks to Ukraine. Some countries report discovering that the tanks in their armory don't actually work or they don't have spare parts. The New York Times within the last hour reports that it demonstrates how unprepared European militaries are right now. How concerned is the U.S. about that challenge that allies are facing right now in an effort to arm Ukraine?
Yeah. There hasn't been a day since the war began over a year ago that we haven't been concerned about making sure we get Ukraine the kinds of capabilities that they need on the battlefield as fast as possible. Some cases you can get things there within a matter of days and they're making a huge difference right in the moment. Other times it takes a little bit longer. So we're going to keep working with our allies and partners about all these advanced capabilities to make sure that we are doing everything we can to get them ready for the fighting in the weeks and months ahead. And there will be more vicious fighting in those weeks and months.
Let me ask you about NATO. NATO officials say that the Russians are massing a large number of aircraft across the border from Ukraine. Is the U.S. anticipating an imminent offensive campaign by the Russian Air Force? Are you preparing for that?
We have been talking to the Ukrainians now for weeks about what potential there might be for a Russian offensive when the weather improves. I don't want to get into intelligence estimates here on TV, but I can tell you that we're watching this very, very closely. We're sharing the information that we have directly with the Ukrainians, and they're doing the same. That's why, again, we're working so hard here in these winter months as winter comes to a close to make sure the Ukrainians are in the best possible position they can be come spring.
John, you and your colleagues at the White House and across the administration have made it very clear right now that there is a real concern and a warning to China not to provide weapons to Russia. As you've told me repeatedly, they haven't done that yet, but that nothing's off the table right now. You've seen, like I have, that some of the numbers of American support for this war has begun to wane in the course of recent weeks. So if you were to have to pursue some consequence, some punishment for China, how would you be able to reinforce sanctions here? Would the American people, do you worry, at some point say, hey, enough is enough? Because that would have an impact on the U.S. economy, wouldn't it?
Well, let's not get ahead of where we are right now, Peter. We haven't seen the Chinese move in this direction. Yes, it's true they haven't taken it off the table. You've heard Chancellor Scholz talk about this in his parliament just yesterday, his concerns about this potential move. We don't believe it's in the Chinese best interest to provide weapons and capabilities so that Mr. Putin can continue to kill innocent Ukrainian people. And we believe that they should see that it's not in their interest. As for what we would do should they move in that direction, you've heard Secretary Blinken talk about this. There certainly would be consequences, but I don't think it's helpful right now to get beyond where we are. We hope that China makes the right decision here. Obviously, it's their decision to make, but we hope that they come down on the side of not wanting to help Mr. Putin continue these murderous ways.
I guess I'm asking what the leverage is here, right? Because wouldn't at some point it potentially chip away at U.S. support for this war here? And doesn't China know that?
I think it's difficult to know. First of all, we don't know where China's going to go here. But if there were to be consequences, if they make a decision, there were to be consequences, it's difficult to know what kind of impact that would have here on the American people and their opinion about what's going on inside Ukraine. And again, I just don't think we want to get too far ahead of ourselves right now, since China hasn't made this decision. The president believes that the American people understand well what's at stake here, Peter. It's independence. There's an ideal that all Americans can get behind and understand. And he knows that they know that if Mr. Putin were just to walk over Ukraine, if he gets what he wants here, to take Ukraine away as a country, as an independent state, where does it go from there? Where does he stop? And the cost in blood and treasure to our allies and partners, not alone to us in the United States, could be exponentially higher.
And as President Biden said to me in our exclusive conversation by phone not very long ago, he said that he doesn't believe President Xi wants to rip up the relationship with the United States and with himself, frankly, personally. Last question to you. We haven't heard a lot about any more balloons recently. Are you tracking any more right now? And if so, why haven't any others been shot down?
I'm not aware that the Pentagon is tracking any other unidentified balloons or aerial objects at this time, Peter. But obviously, we're going to continue to monitor.
For a while, you said when you fixed the radar, you saw so many. But even after fixing the radar, there haven't been any that you're aware of since?
Well, remember, what's different now, though, Peter, is we put in place some additional protocols here. And they're in a classified setting, but some additional protocols to help us weed out and discriminate what needs to be worried about and what doesn't need to be worried about. So I can't speak for what NORTHCOM is doing, Northern Command. I understand that they have not made any changes to the radar parameters, but what has changed is a new set of protocols to help us discriminate what is a threat from what is not a threat.
Yeah, important for you to point that out. Thanks, John Kirby. I very much appreciate your time. We'll see you at the White House shortly. Thanks.
Yes, sir.